Welcome to the Hanley Effect, a podcast by the Hanley Foundation designed to educate, change minds, and save lives. Our goal is to inspire you, showcase our innovations, and change the conversation about addiction and mental health. Join us as we unravel stories of resilience, recovery, and hope.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Hanley Effect. I'm John Dyben.
I'm Rachel Docekal.
Dr. D, how are you today?
Dr. D, how are you?
I am lovely. Do you remember, last Thanksgiving, you and I had a conversation. In fact, we had it on this podcast. It was just you and I talking about, when people are especially early in recovery and they're coming into the holidays, how do they deal with that?
Yes.
And I think about that. We talk about things like that all the time. And also, a lot of times people are thinking about, like, what if I want to go on a cruise, or, how do I deal with this? And Teresa Bergen has writes just about how you deal with traveling and stuff when you're doing so sober.
Mhm.
And I want to introduce her real quick, but I love this statement, or quote: "We didn't get sober to have little lives." I love that. Teresa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Welcome.
Hey, John. Hey, Rachel. Thanks for having me on the show. And I
Thank you.
do have to say up front that I'm not the only one to say that about the little lives. I've heard several other people in travel say that same thing. So it's more of a quote for all of us rather than just something that's individual to me.
I can think of it's such a big and important statement. And I think of, especially, we get to see people who are really in their very, very first moments and they're struggling. And that is it's just such a beautiful statement. Can you tell us a little bit? We always like to know about our guests. Who are you? Tell us about what you do, and whatever you're willing to share about your journey that brought you to where you are today.
Sure, of course. So I have a really lucky story because I had problems, like many people do, with drugs and alcohol. I mean, it's a common problem lots of people have, but I was fortunate in that I found help when I was really young. I was not even of legal age. I was one of those people that used a lot as a teenager, and I managed to clean up my act at the age of 20. So I'm very grateful and very fortunate for that. And so it's let me have my whole adult life to try different things and live life and experience it, and not have that that little tiny life that you get when everything closes in because you're dependent on substances. So now I live in Portland, Oregon. I live with my husband and our beautiful black cat, and I work with words. So I do various writing, editing kind of things, and one of the things I do is I'm a travel writer, and I specialize in outdoors adventure, vegan, eco, and sober travel.
Wonderful.
I love it. I will have to talk later because I like adventure travel.
He doesn't like
Mhm.
vegan travel, so let's just be clear.
But that's,
That's
that's for another
Don't
time.
like sober travel either.
I'm always teasing John because he'll be on the way to the podcast and take a swing through fast food just to make sure that he's well nourished for this show.
Well, we all got to decide what we'll eat.
There you go. But speaking of that, so I've never been. Can we talk a little bit about, and again, I think about, people often will, especially if they have experienced addiction, they've come to a point where they can't use substances anymore. They have an allergy, and it is going to destroy their lives as they keep going. And so, but there is often this sense that people have, like, how am I going to have any fun in life? Because fun has always been around substances. Can you talk a little bit about, how people can have that big life, and how is it that they can do that moving away and not, if it doesn't have anything to do with substances?
Well, I think there's like a real learning thing there. So So imagine, you start out with your life's like this big maybe, and then you start using all these substances and you're more and more dependent on them. So you have to spend all your time getting your getting your favorite substance and spending time with only other people who understand and are doing the same thing, or by yourself, right? Because you don't want normal people to see how much you're using. So your world gets really small. But when you're in it, it's your whole world. So you can't imagine that there's something beyond it. So, and then when you quit, and if you can't hang out with your friends who are doing the same thing, and then suddenly it's like, there's no world at all, right? So you have to rebuild it. So it takes some time, and you probably don't even know what you want in that world if you've been using substances for years, because that has become your world. So it's a very sensitive time. And at first, I wouldn't tell people like, oh, go see the world right away, go travel. I'd
Right.
say you need a little time to rebuild yourself. You need that recovery time where you're going to learn new habits, healthier habits, and you're going to meet some other people, make some friends that are also not using, so that you have people to hang out with that aren't, constantly putting you in this stress place of temptation. And then after you get a little bit of solid base, be like, well, maybe I like this. I've never tried that. Maybe I like this. And then slowly give yourself the freedom to try some different things. And knowing that you may or may not like them, you can try something once and be like, oh,
Right.
that sucked. And then try something else and be like, well, maybe I like that. So I think that's the first step. It's before you travel or anything, just start to find things you like close to home.
It's interesting. One of the things we hear, and we hear it regularly, I think I've even mentioned it on this show, is a lot of times we'll have patients who say, I can't imagine going to my daughter or my son's wedding and not toasting them with a glass of champagne. And we'll say, oh, how old is your child? 3, you know, and it's, you know, how do you, help folks navigate a world that a lot of the ritual really centers around, alcohol?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a funny question. People do worry. And I mean, I worry about stuff too. And I'm not worrying about alcohol now, but I find other things to worry about that are way in the future that may or may not happen. So I can
Mhm.
understand that worry. Um, but and when I quit, I was only 20 years old, right? So my friends had hardly even started getting married or anything. And one of the things people said to me was like, but why but what's gonna happen when you can't clink a champagne glass at your friend's wedding? But personally, I thought that was a really stupid question, because why would I be interested in having 1 glass of champagne? That was not at all interesting. Um, yeah, I'd rather have 20. And, of course, that wasn't I knew that by then that wasn't a good idea. So here's a little secret you might not know if you're newly sober. You can put any liquid in a glass and it will make the same clinking sound. So, sparkling water, ginger ale, some kind of fancy mocktail. It doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, and I mean, I've been guilty of this too. Like, I have been places where I've kind of felt really put upon, even out with years and years of sobriety, because I didn't have anything to toast with that. Well, there's a toast. Okay, people, we have to be a little proactive. We want to belong. We want to participate. Maybe we just have to go grab our own ginger ale and toast with it. But sometimes I feel like the world is leaving us out, but sometimes we're leaving ourselves out. These other people don't necessarily care what's in your glass. The point is to be there together. We're having a celebration. It's in honor of somebody else, not us. We're not the center. So we just grab something and click it. And it's really not a big deal. I understand it
I
feels like a big deal
love that.
sometimes, but it really isn't.
Yeah. And thanks for saying that. I was at an event a number of years ago, and all of the non-alcoholic beverages were at a table. It really was a table anybody was welcome at, but children, of course, were going there and getting their beverages from this table. A colleague of mine said, I really felt less than because
Mm.
I had to get my beverage from the kids' table. And I got my beverage from the kids' table. I didn't think anything of it,
Mhm.
but you're right. We need to sometimes reframe these things for ourselves.
Yeah, a lot of it is the mindset. And instead of letting even the body position, you can sort of feel like this isn't really for me. I'm shrinking in. Or you can be like, this is my delicious ginger ale and I'm going to toast. So a lot of it is really just how we present it to ourselves and then how we project it to others.
Okay, I don't know that I've ever said this before, but if listeners, I'm talking to listeners now, if you're only listening and you're not seeing, I encourage you, get on and watch this, because I love that. And I'm not even kidding. That is so empowering, because when I think of people, we've spent decades watching people who are afflicted with addiction bravely, incredibly courageously move and fight that and find lives of true recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it is something to be wildly proud of. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that picture. Sometimes, we'll be like this, we're kind of, holding, but that movement to say, this is something that is something to be proud of, something that I am, kind of flexing my muscles. I love that. I hope everybody watches that.
Teresa, it was amazing.
Super powerful.
Take up your space, people. You deserve it. You've earned it. You're as much of a person as anybody else.
That's it. Man, that's a good, take up your space, people. I love that. So thinking then about, this, one of the things that you said, you talked about, you said, I wouldn't necessarily go on maybe a world cruise, the day after, you begin getting right in very early sobriety, but I would start building a new life and building a new world. And I heard you kind of saying exploring and experimenting
Mm-hmm.
and trying new things. But one of the things you said is you talked about people and having people who might also be, doing the same thing that you're doing, not wanting life to be surrounded by alcohol how do you, if someone is thinking about traveling, I had my first experience last year with a cruise. I'd never done a cruise in my life, and my family and we went on a cruise. And I think about somebody who's going on a cruise, alcohol is just part of all of that. How do you find people when you're traveling to be with you?
So I'd say first, for your support, have some support at home because you don't know what you're going to find traveling. So find a accountability person. It could be your sister, your friend, your partner. If you're in a 12-step program, maybe it's your sponsor or another member, just somebody who supports you not drinking or using. And that's your first person. You're going to touch base with them as often as you can. Now, if you're on a cruise, sometimes you get, or other places, sometimes you get out of Wi-Fi reach, but you're going to check in with them. Just say, hey, doing okay. I'm still here. If you need more, you can talk to them more. So that's kind of your anchor. And then when you go out, so I'm always looking for the other people who turn their wine glasses upside down at the table. So I always watch for that. If someone else is turning their wine glass down, I see what they're ordering. If someone else is not drinking very much, that's someone I might sort of sidle up to and just kind of start up a conversation with. Maybe it's nice when you have a little block of people that aren't drinking together. So if I can sit next to someone else who's maybe not ordering drinks, that's good. Maybe it's somebody who's pregnant and they're not drinking. Maybe there's all kinds of reasons people don't drink. It doesn't have to be just someone who's also in recovery. It could be anyone who's just makes you feel comfortable because they don't have alcohol in front of them. And then sometimes I'll find people who are some kind of healthcare worker, because even if they drink, they usually are aware of people not drinking, other people not drinking. And sometimes I announce myself. This can be a little uncomfortable for people, but if everyone's drinking and they're like, why don't you drink? Come on, have a drink. Sometimes I'll say, I'll just tell people yeah, I don't drink. I'm in recovery. I don't behave well when I drink. I wouldn't be invited back if I drank. And that can make people uncomfortable, but it also sometimes spurs people to be like, oh, my sister's in recovery, or, it makes so one, it might give you access to somebody else who understands. And two, it makes you sort of accountable so that they might notice if the next day you're tempted and you're thinking, oh, maybe I will drink. You've already announced yourself. So it makes it harder to pick up those drinks. So those are a couple tips.
Those are great.
They're great tips. So, when my husband Steve and I were newly married, we went on our first cruise. I will just for our listeners say that at that point we had so little money that we were in a room that didn't have a window that was right next to some room that banged all night, some sort of mechanical
Next to the
room.
machine room.
Yeah.
Right?
But we were there. We were
The
there.
engineering.
And I noticed that there were signs around the cruise with arrows that said Friends of Bill. At that point, I was so naive that I thought that there was somebody named Bill on the cruise with us who was having a birthday or an anniversary, and that those signs were to let his friends know that this is where you went for those festivities. Talk a little bit for us about being a friend of Bill and what that signals.
Okay, so if you see a sign, and usually it'll say Bill W, that gives you the extra clue
Right.
because that's for Bill Wilson, who is one of the co-founders of AA along with Dr. Bob Smith. So if you see like a sign that says Friends of Bill W, I mean, it could be somebody's retirement party, but it's probably a 12-step kind of meeting. Yeah, go in carefully. Be prepared. It might be something else. Some of the bigger cruise lines have 12-step meetings, and I went on one time for my parents' 50th anniversary, and it was really nice because it was like an open meeting, so anybody could go to it, and it was sort of a catch-all 12-step meeting. And the really big cruise ships, I mean, they have all the A's, right? They have the alcohol, the food, the gambling, probably the sex
Right.
addiction. I don't know if they have the drugs, but they have most of the A's anyway, right? So it was a nice little catch-all group where you'd have everybody who was struggling with something. And it was right at the same time as happy hour, which was kind of funny. So the rest of my party would all go to happy hour because I wasn't with any other not drinkers. And I could go to the catch-all 12-step meeting. And it was really felt like a little secret society on the ship because we were all traveling with people and having a good time, but also in those close quarters we'd end up venting about the people we were with. So then you'd see these other people around the ship later and you'd be like, oh, that's the annoying sister-in-law, or that's the kid that's driving them crazy. Or it was really this kind of fun secret in the know feeling.
I love that. So thinking about that trip there. So you're with a group and you're the only non-drinker there. How did you work with that, or did you talk to that group that you went with before? Did they know? Did they support you? What was that like? Because I think a lot of people listening will say, I'm going to go on I've been, found sobriety a year or two ago, and I'm going to go on a class reunion and, meet with other people. Did you talk to them? Were they a support for you?
This was a group of my family members, so they all knew where I was coming from, and they supported me, but they still were going to have their happy hour, which was fine. I've been sober a long time by then. But I'd say you really have to I would really encourage people to look at their own situation because sometimes we want to say, "Oh, I'm cool with that. That's fine," when we're really not. So I would not encourage you to travel too soon. I'd have a think about it. I'd talk to some other trusted people, friends, peers, sponsors, whatever you have in your little world of sobriety, and see if see if they have a feel for how you're doing and if you feel like you're really sober enough to set out. And then I would be careful of certain groups. Like some, like my family was one thing because none of them were really heavy drinkers. Like they would like to have a cocktail, but that was about it. And I knew there was going to be no pressure on me. They weren't going to be like, I want you to have a cocktail too. But some groups might, like if it's an old group of your school friends, or if it's like, God help you, a bachelor or bachelorette party. I mean, you want to you want to think about if it's really right for you or not, and don't feel you have to do this. I mean, it's your life, it's your time, it's your money, it's your decision. Don't let people pressure you. If you do want to go, if at all possible, I would either room with another non-drinker or get my own room if I had the money to do that, because you might need your little space, your solitude, your retreat from everybody. I would also have some kind of exit strategy. if it's if things went south. Like, like I would know how to get out of the place if I drove my own. I'd rather drive my own car than go with someone else if I thought I was going to be stuck somewhere. Or if I'm flying somewhere, I'd want to know there are other flights, or I want to know that there's an Uber or at least a bus schedule or something. So I like just to do a little planning ahead. And so I felt, and that might sound paranoid, but for me, that just makes me feel safer that
Yes.
I can leave if I.
I mean, I don't no notes. Like I think that is such sound advice, and not even just for like traveling, but like I said, for you're going over to holiday parties and things
Right.
like that. Know yourself and where you're at, because different people are going to be at different places, and what might be okay for somebody is not going to be okay for another. Getting have someone outside of you, right? Don't just rely on yourself. Finding trusted people who know you and who can help you gauge that, and then planning it out, planning both an exit strategy if you need. I think that is as well as planning a pause strategy, that like I may just need to step away and come back. I may actually need to exit. Those are things that
Yeah, super smart.
for any of those situations, whether it's traveling or whether it's, we're going to have holidays, or I think those are excellent suggestions.
Yeah.
So we have gotten we're
5
right,
minutes.
we're
Yep.
wrapping up from our producer already. I know this goes very, very quickly. First, I don't want to forget, because what you do and your perspective is so unique. If somebody's listening to this and they want to find out more about you, if they want to get your book, they want to, maybe they want to plan a trip or travel, and how can people get a hold of you? How can they learn more about you?
You could go, I'll give you two resources. One is my personal website, which is my name, teresabergen.com, TeresaBergen.com. So that's my personal one. But I also contribute to a really, really excellent site called the Sober Curator. I'm one of many contributors, and we are especially for long-term recovery and to have fun in long-term recovery. And we have a lot of like pop culture kind of stuff and fun events that we have event calendar for all over the country and sometimes beyond the US. So I would look at that too, just to get lots of resources. Oh, and here's my little book for those of you who are watching. It just came out, Sober Travel Handbook. So it has lots of tips for how to travel sober.
And can we get that on Amazon or any place in particular, or do we go to your website?
Yeah, maybe go to my website for a link. I have a publisher called Microcosm Publishing, who's an independent press, and they're kind of anti-Amazon. I use Amazon myself, but they are kind of anti-Amazon, and so yeah, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But they have their good reasons for it. So.
That's wonderful.
It's so important, and for people to have that access and that resource. Well, what we love to do also is we always love to let our guests have the last word, and to give one message to our audience. It's a wide variety of people, some people in recovery, some people not, some people, just a wide group of people. What is one thing that you would like to leave with our audience today?
Well, say for the people in recovery, you can change your life. You can have a better life. And when they say it's kind of a cliche, the one day at a time, but what that really means is that you don't just quit and it's over. You have to just keep choosing every day. Today, I choose a better life for myself without alcohol. So hang in there. People were always telling me there's nothing so bad in life that a drink is going to make it better. And I really believe that. Yeah.
Right
Thanks.
on. Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I encourage everybody to check out those resources.
This was great.
It really was.
This was great.
Very unique. This is a really important niche, but it is for people that are saying, I can't keep drinking, I can't keep using, but I don't want to live a little life. This is so important.
And for those of you who didn't see the video, you've got to see.
Yes.
Teresa, pull it up. I think that's going to go viral.
So thank you, Dr. D. Always wonderful to be with you.
Thanks, Dr. D. This was fun.
Very fun. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in or listening. We'll see you next time on The Hanley Effect.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for The Hanley Effect. To learn more about our programs, visit hanleyfoundation.org or call 844-502-4673.